Welcome back to Magic Muggle, a Harry Potter after show. I'm Eric Cicada, your host, aka Mr. Honest. And today, we're talking about The Prisoner of Azkaban, specifically the movie, and why it might be one of the strongest book-to-film adaptations in the entire series. This is our season finale, technically, of Prisoner of Azkaban. We have done 3 books. We have 3 seasons. The artwork for the podcast for season 4, Goblet of Fire, is finished and it looks gorgeous. I'm excited for you to see that. And I want to start this episode with a confession. I've been mixing up the book and the movie in my head. I really had to watch the movie after I finished the book, like on the same day, but it's still been a few days since I've watched it. So I think it's a positive thing, actually, that it really mixes up in my head with a few key differences that don't make a huge difference in the plot, but some things just are better for books and some things are better for movies. That's always going to be that way. However, this adaptation stays very true to the book and in many ways. And if it veers off course, it always brings you back on course. So yeah, because of that, you know, they're so similar. Ever since I watched it, certain moments feel fused together. Like I'll remember a scene and genuinely have to pause and then like ask myself, was that on the page or was that on the screen? And instead of seeing that as a problem, actually, like I said, I actually think that's like one of the highest compliments I can give an adaptation, because when a movie captures the spirit of a book, not just the plot, but the emotional logic, the lines start to blur in the best possible way. That's what Prisoner of Azkaban does. This isn't a movie trying to summarize a book. It's a movie trying to make you feel what the book feels like. And it nails it. I saw this movie in theaters, and that blur, that rare blur, is quite fantastic. You know, one difference immediately in my head, Aunt Marge, she blows up in both versions, right? We get a little less build up to it in the movie, obviously, but in the book, she just lifts up to the ceiling, but they made it a bit more dramatic in the movie. They send her flying into the air like a balloon, and Vernon's got to let go, and that's a funny moment. So this book is a turning point. You could say this for a lot of the books, or a lot of the moments in the books and the movies and whatnot. But Prisoner of Azkaban is where Harry Potter quietly grows up. I mean, in the movies especially, he's got a deeper voice now. I don't hear much of the kid from 2 movies ago. They grow up fast. And, you know, I'll say it grows up not explosively and not with a big battle, but a realization. This is the story where Harry learns that adults are flawed, authority can be wrong, and the truth can be delayed. And sometimes the people who were supposed to protect you didn't. The movie understands that this is the pivot point of the entire series. Azkaban feels like the moment you realize childhood doesn't last forever. Even though I was a kid when I read this book, and I was still just as happy about the adaptation like I am now. I was much younger. And the way the movie communicates all this isn't through dialogue dumps or explanations, it's through tone. Hogwarts doesn't feel like a postcard anymore. It feels like just a bit colder, larger, and more isolating. And that's due to a few different factors. The camera moves differently, the lighting is moodier. The weather is almost always telling you how Harry feels before he says a word. And just very subtly, the scene transitions. So in the Whopping Willow, it doesn't even say winter, spring, summer, fall. We just know when it's spring, and because the Whopping Willow like shakes snow off it. The movie trusts visual storytelling. So where earlier films would explain the danger, this one lets you sit in it. And that's a huge reason why the book and the movie start blurring and blending together, because they're emotionally aligned, even when the details change. Let's talk about the cuts, because yes, things are missing. The Marauder's backstory isn't fully spelled out for you. Certain explanations are shortened or implied. Some of the connective lore is just not there. And here's the key point. The movie isn't lazy about these cuts. It's intentional. Instead of pausing the story to explain every single thread, the movie asks a different question. What does the audience need to feel right now? The film implies history through behavior, through glances, through tension. You can tell that these people share a past, even if you don't have every single footnote. And honestly, that mirrors real life. We rarely get neat explanations for adult trauma. We feel it first and understand it later. The book tells you what happened, and the movie makes you sense that something terrible did happen. That's not a downgrade. That's cinema doing its job. That is a book to movie adaptation at its best. I'd say this is more of like a companion piece to the book more than most of the other movie adaptations. At least I like most of them. The first three are especially special to me in terms of the movie. It fills in emotional gaps even if the details stay fuzzy. And I mean, this is coming from somebody who finished it one day and watched the movie on the same day. Because honestly, there's things missing. I think the biggest miss or change is what I remember directly was the firebolt situation. Harry gets the firebolt for Christmas, same deal, and they take it away in the book. McGonagall, she insists it must be taken apart, checked by Flitwick, checked by teachers to make sure it's not hexed to kill Harry, and that's a reasonable thing. In this one, Harry doesn't get the broom until the very end, until he saves Sirius Black. And at that moment, he is gifted the firebolt, and the ending of the movie is him flying around on it super fast, ending with a freeze frame of him smiling. I don't think they've ever ended on a freeze frame like that in any of the movies. Honestly, that kind of sums up this movie and all. It takes chances and fills in those emotional gaps, like I said, and it feels just right, the freeze frame at the end. It's good to see him smiling. Things are about to get even darker in the following books, so I'd say this is the darkest point and the turning point for the series, but I can also say the same thing for Goblet of Fire in a bigger way. I mean, it's the connective tissue of the dark world of Harry Potter and the innocence that it loses in that book, but we'll talk about that book another day. So here's where Azkaban really earns its reputation. The movie adds things, not plot points, but language. Visual language. Time is treated like a physical presence. Clocks, movements, repetition, all quietly reinforcing the theme of regret and second chances. The Whomping Willow becomes a marker of time passing. Hogwarts itself feels alive in a way it never quite did before. And also, when I say that Hogwarts feels alive, just the walk down to Hagrid's hut never seems so fantastic. I don't remember if they've changed it from the first to this movie, and I think it's more of a bit of a hilly down slope to the house, but in this book, but I don't know. It doesn't matter. I think what they did with Hagrid's hut works. I thought it looked great. And then there's Harry. The movie isolates him visually. Even when he's surrounded by his friends, he's framed alone. He's listening while others talk. Because this is the movie where Harry learns the truth about his parents, the full truth, and about betrayal also. And the film understands that betrayal doesn't always come from villains. Sometimes it comes from silence, from omissions, from adults who thought they were protecting you but actually weren't. The emotional undercurrent is everywhere in the movie, and it's why the adaptation feels so seamless. At the heart of Prisoner of Azkaban is one relationship, Harry and Sirius. Not as a plot twist, not as a reveal, but as a what if. I mean, it was a bit of a plot twist at first, wasn't it? If Harry had an adult who actually chose him, what if family wasn't about blood but loyalty? This movie handles this beautifully because it doesn't rush the emotional weight. Sirius isn't presented as a savior. He's broken and he's angry. He's human. And very good in contrast to the book, I'd say. I'd say Sirius Black was perfectly casted, and I think he's exactly what I imagined from the book at the time when I read it when I was a lot younger. And that's why the moment where Harry realizes the truth lands so hard. Because it's not just about clearing a name, it's about the possibility of belonging. For the first time, Harry sees a future where he isn't alone. And then, just as quickly, that future is taken away from him. It's just always these types of games that Harry has to play when it comes to where he's going to go at the end of the summer, and not with his abusers, technically. I mean, the book is very lighthearted about the Dursleys and situations, but it's actually quite dark, having Harry start off the series living in a cupboard under the stairs. The only reason he's not still in there is because he knows the magical community is watching out for Harry. It's just devastating that he can't get to that point where he has like his guardian and he gets to kind of be a kid growing up in the wizarding world like he was meant to be with his parents. And Sirius Black is that window for him. And the movie lets this devastation breathe. No triumphant music, no forced optimism. Just the quiet understanding that growing up sometimes means accepting loss, even when it isn't fair. So when I say that I keep mixing up the book and the movie, that's not confusion, that's alignment. It means the adaptation respected the book enough to translate it instead of copying it. And that's why Prisoner of Azkaban is often considered one of the finest adaptations of the series, especially when you compare it to what comes next. Goblet of Fire has incredible moments, but it struggles because it compresses too much without always replacing what's lost emotionally. And that may be a testament to how big that book is. If I'm not correct, it's one of the biggest, if not the largest book in the series. I mean, it is thick. I have it sitting up behind me on my dresser, waiting for me to read it. I can't wait. Azkaban never makes the mistakes and shortcomings of its following film. When it cuts, it compensates. When it changes, it deepens. When it simplifies, it sharpens the theme. That's rare, and that's why this movie doesn't just hold up, it ages beautifully. Just like how these days I'd be lining up for an Avengers movie, there's no lines anymore for the movies. They actually figured out how to, well, I don't want to say the movie theater business is dying, but there's some issues going on with it, and our superhero movies and our Harry Potter movies keeps them going. And I remember the magic of sitting in my seat for this one. I just have to keep going back because it's a very special memory, because this is the movie I went on opening night, I think it was, and I was young still. I was like with my aunt, my phenomenal family took me, and you know, I remember the line outside the theater and the people dressed up as witches and wizards, and that's my favorite part of fandom. That's my favorite part of the community of Harry Potter, and same with Marvel. People go crazy. I've seen some real looking Spider-Mans in my life. Shout out to my boy Nico, who will probably never hear this, but Nico's a cool guy. He has a very good Spider-Man suit. Very realistic, actually. I did a live podcast recording once, and for my older podcast, it's gone off the internet. Don't ask me why, but Nico is a Spider-Man, and Spider-Man were at Hogwarts. Do you think he'd be able to fight off the Dementors? magicmugglepod at gmail.com. Do you want to see the Spider-Man Harry Potter crossover? Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Listen to Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show. This is my little tiny bit of an advertisement. It's on all your platforms. If you haven't come here from that, which I'm sure many of you did, but if you for some reason found this one first, know that there's another podcast that I've been doing a little bit longer, Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show. It's wherever you listen to your podcasts. So all in all, Prisoner of Azkaban doesn't end with a victory. It ends with acceptance. I mean, the broom ride's kind of a victory, but the acceptance thing is probably more true. Harry doesn't defeat a Dark Lord. He doesn't solve the system. He learns the truth and learns to live with it. And he learns how to overcome his fear of those nasty, dirty, creepy Dementors. It needed to be mentioned, and I almost didn't, how well this movie adapted the Dementors. They're scary. They're terrifying. When you actually see under the mask for a short second, you wonder if they're zombies or mythical half-dead creatures. I don't know what the heck they are. They could have a whole book on how Dementors came to be or what they ever are, and are they even from our world? I mean, there's a lot of questions about them that I'd like answers to, and I don't think we're going to get them. Maybe we will in the books, maybe, but honestly, they're just a mystery, and they're creepy, and they haunt Harry to the point where he passes out and hears his mom screaming, and they do adapt that to the book very well. The literal scene where they were doing the Bogart in the classroom with Professor Lupin, I thought that was perfectly adapted from the book. The Blur example, that is the Blur. So his overcoming the Dementors, all this fear, all this darkness, it's truly a big sign of Harry Potter actually growing up with the series. Not with spectacle, but with empathy. That's why this adaptation works. That's why this book and the movie blur together. And that's why Azkaban remains special. Thank you for listening to Magic Muggle, by the way. It is my honor to have you here. Before we wrap up, I just want to open the door for a little community connection. If you ever want to share a thought about the episode, a favorite moment from Prisoner of Azkaban, or just something this story stirred up for you, you can always reach out at magicmugglepod@gmail.com. I read everything seriously. Don't hesitate. It will most likely be featured on the show. You'll also find a tip jar linked in the show's description. There's absolutely no pressure, but it's there for anyone who wants to help support the podcast and keep Magic Muggle going. And one more thing I want to gently float out there. I've been thinking about starting a Magic Muggle community space, possibly a Discord that could also connect with my upcoming Twitch streams. If that's something you'd be interested in, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm especially curious about this. Would you rather see Magic Muggle separate or eventually merge that community with the Patreon of Marvel Maniac? No wrong answers. I'm just listening. I am all ears. Thank you for being here. As always, share this with a friend. Rate us 5 stars. Give us a great review. It goes the longest way and is extremely appreciated. Thank you for caring about these stories as much as I do. And thanks for helping this little corner of the wizarding world feel like home. Next week, we jump right into Season 4/Book 4, The Goblet of Fire. I am so excited to keep moving on through these podcasts. I hope you're enjoying listening to them as much as I'm having fun making them. And until next time, wands down, hearts full.